Welcome to this week's edition of the Scramble. I am your host, Austin Eddy. We are here today with a few old faces and a new one. First, we have Jessica Lujan, who fought the law and the law won. Robert Roussel III, who for the life of him can't fly a kite. Zachary Swartz, he once played Batman in a middle school rendition of Romeo and Juliet. And Asmaret Gebertekle, who doesn't believe in clocks. With that out of the way, let's get right down to it. Zach, newest panelist, why don't you explain a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a journalism major here at UNLV. I'm pre-law. Hopefully that goes well. And I'm looking into producing in the future at some point. So
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Well, let's get started with topic number one today. The Senate GOP recently blocked the Buffett rule legislation, which would have forced millionaires to pay a minimum tax of 30%. One of the counter-arguments to the bill was that maybe the lower income brackets should have their taxes lowered instead of the higher brackets increased. Many people who are opposed to the bill also state that if the taxes for the rich were increased, it would hurt both job production and charities alike. Question number one to you, Asmaret. Do you believe that the Buffett rule is at least heading in the right direction, or is there another way to help address this problem?
No, I definitely agree with the Buffett rule. I think it is in taking us in the direction that we need to go. And for the fact that it was not passed yesterday within the Republicans in the House of Representatives, it was kind of a disappointment because this is something that's really going to gradually progress us in the direction that we need to go, because it's a fact. You know, higher income households, millionaires, are paying less. Like Warren Buffett says, he pays less in income taxes than his secretary does, and that's not acceptable.
Zach, we'll get you right in the mix right off the bat. What do you believe?
Initially I was for the Buffett rule, but then when I started hearing both sides of the argument, I started leaning a little bit more towards kind of modifying it. I think as a whole, they pay less taxes, but a lot of their money is tax write-offs for charities. And I heard the argument that if you tax them more, then money would be taken away from charities. And there's also the argument that states it would prevent job loss. Job creation is done by these people. They are the 1%, and they do control a significant amount of this. So if you start taking away more money from them as philanthropists, then that money does also get taken away from other things, although that's not tax and federal money. So,
Robert, you have Asmaret on one side, Zach on the other. Where are we going with this one?
I'm more in the middle. I feel that obviously the tax code needs to be fixed, but I feel like the loopholes in the system need to be fixed more so than we start adding new things to the code. The reason that you have certain millionaires who are making this much money who are paying less tax than others. I mean, you have Romney who only paid like 15% in taxes. He found loopholes in the system. That's what his accountant is paid to do, is to find loopholes so he pays as minimal taxes as possible. So I think those are the things that we need to take care of and close. Also, as it pertains to the Buffett rule, it was blocked down, but the majority, about 44% of Congress would fit into that tax bracket that would be taxed more. So why are you counting on them to pass something which would take more money out of their pocket, is my question. And something like this just isn't going to work.
well, isn't that one of the problems with the way that it works between them? They're supposed to be above that kind of system. Because remember, earlier on one of the shows, you mentioned about how they used insider trading. And isn't this kind of the same thing? It does hurt them, but their whole job is supposed to be for the entire country.
Well, exactly. It's just that you're trusting a group of people who, in my opinion, have not done a whole lot to deserve that trust in order to try and pass these different legislation. And this is something that's going to hurt them. So why exactly would they go ahead and pass it? And the insider trading one, there's still loopholes in it where they can exploit and get away with it. So once again, there's just too much, extra. There's too much, the loopholes, things like that need to be closed. And for something like this, I don't feel like it needs to be passed. Just close those tax loopholes, and so that those millionaires do pay their fair, to pay what they should pay.
Got to sneak Jessica in here. Yeah, there we go.
Here. Millionaires make their money by, working their way up a corporation, or maybe they create their own corporation, but they get that money from a lifetime of work that they've been taxed on. They invest that money, and now they have to pay capital gains taxes on money that they've already earned and been taxed on. They're being taxed twice on money that they've worked hard for. Heaven forbid they go and invest it in a company and make a little bit of profit for themselves. It's ridiculous that, we can honestly sit here and pretend like the top 1% pay less in taxes than everybody else. They may at times, pay a smaller percentage, but overall that number is so much bigger than any taxes that you and I are paying right now. So I think this argument is just ridiculous. The Buffett rule is completely, to me, just ridiculous, and I can't see them passing such a law. So
Thank you. Off to a good start here. Got to move on to topic number 2. With the candidates officially set for the presidential election, the battle begins between President Barack Obama and the Republican challenger Mitt Romney. Currently, President Obama has a 9-point lead over Romney, and sources say one of the biggest reasons is that President Obama is more likely to get voters from females. Although the election is just starting to heat up, Romney already has a mountain to climb in order to make up the 9-point deficit he's in. So, Zach, we'll start with you on this one. What are some of the things Mitt Romney needs to do in order to swing the votes in his favor, I guess?
He needs to get females on his side. As of right now, it is the Republican Party versus females. They keep trying to impede on it. They go the anti-abortion, all of those things. I know a ton of women that hate that the government has any say over that. And I know people on the other side as well, but it's kind of like the Republican Party has been making enemies throughout the whole campaign when it was Santorum and Romney with women. They've never really gone, they're one of our top priorities, because they are half the voters. It is a very important section, and I think they're kind of ignoring it. Romney needs to sort of bring out his wife more. He needs to show that he is a friend of women and that he's not just the Republican that's going to go, I'm going to tell you what to do with your body. And if he can do that, he can close the gap.
Esmeralda?
I just feel like Romney seems real unrelatable to women, and that's why they're leaning more towards the Obama campaign. For the simple fact that, as Zach stated, all these issues that arise during the Republicans' candidacy when they were competing with one another. And it's the fact that his wife needs to come into the picture. There was a statement made that Ann Romney has never held a job in her entire life. And that resonates with hardworking women, especially who have to maintain a household and sometimes are the sole provider. And especially in this time in our society when women are approaching or climbing the ladder, the corporate ladder, and are becoming a sole economic financial provider for their families and their communities, and however, they're becoming more prominent. So the government, or Republicans, in actuality Romney specifically, his group needs to recognize these women and take into initiation that they are significant. And I think that Obama is going to have the lead on this for the simple fact that he seems more relatable, more likable. People feel like he can relate to the middle class with all these bills that he's trying to pass, such as the Buffett rule that we were just speaking about.
Perfect. Jessica?
I personally don't see why we're demonizing Ann Romney for never having a job. She wouldn't be the first woman to be a stay-at-home mother, and, far be it for us to criticize her for that. I think what it really comes down to is, Republicans needing to take a step back and realize that, maybe these hard-hitting issues like, abortion, gay marriage, everything that people tend to get really riled up about, maybe that doesn't need to be, a topic that the government has a say in. Let the states decide. It doesn't need to be something that the president is worrying about at a time where we are dealing with so many other issues.
Perfect. Thank you. Robert, we didn't get to you. We'll get back to you to start topic number 3. We'll be right back here on The Scramble.
And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
Look, honey, it's my Social Security statement.
Oh, gosh, how are we going to retire on that?
Never fear, young savers.
It's Savings Man.
You need to save more. You'll need this.
Oh, the ballpark estimate worksheet.
That's right. Get it at choosetosave.org and find out how much you'll need to save for your future.
Gee, thanks, Savings Man.
No, thank you.
So visit choosetosave.org and stay tuned for more Savings Man.
Over half the people waiting for an organ transplant in the United States will die before they get one. You can increase your chances of getting a life-saving organ donation while helping others in need by joining Life Sharers. As a Life Sharers member, you get preferred access to the organs of other members. In return, you give fellow members first access to your organs. By offering your organs first to other organ donors, you create an incentive for non-donors to become donors. You inspire others to follow your lead. You'll also help make the system more fair. Half of the organs transplanted in the U.S. go to people who have not agreed to donate their own organs when they die. Membership is free and anyone can join. Even if you're already a registered organ donor, you should sign up. Join Life Sharers now. It's free and it could save your life.
Welcome back to the Scramble. Topic number 3 now. The co-founder of Google, Sergey Brin, revealed in an interview that if he would have the chance today, he might not have started up Google in this era. He cited that when Google was originally launched, the internet was a wide open place with no limitations and no real regulations. But now with the increased rise of now searchable social networking, restricted corporation access, and countries like China and Japan starting to input their own bans, the internet is slowly becoming more and more controlled. Robert, we start with you with topic number 3. What kind of rights do users deserve on the internet, and should they be restricted at times?
Well, when he was starting, his company, back in the 90s, I mean, the internet was wide open because nobody really knew, what new frontiers are going to be taking place with this. As far as what users' rights, I mean, I feel like users do have the right to privacy. I like the idea that, something that I put on Facebook or something that I have on Twitter, you can immediately just search through it on Google and then find it through just a search engine that I can filter that privacy. I can do that. At the same time, I do understand that, Twitter allows people to post content on there. Same with Facebook, same with other social networking sites. So we're kind of at the crossroads here with user rights and stuff like that, with Piracy Acts being enabled, with SOPA and PIPA. There's a new one that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it has a funny name too. With all these different acts and all these different things coming in, I mean, it's hard to tell which way we can go. And it really does look like with the passing of one of these acts, I mean, we could end up being like China, where we just have bans on completely everything.
Jessica?
I think what's important to remember is that our First Amendment prioritizes free speech. First and foremost, we place that in very high regard until said speech starts to do harm, starts to, cause an imminent threat to people, and that's something that needs to be upheld. At the same time, I do fear for the future of sites like Facebook and Twitter where our whereabouts are being posted. You have access to personal information that, people don't necessarily see the harm in posting at the time, but later this information could be detrimental in the future if it gets into the wrong hands. So I think personal responsibility needs to come into play here, but also at the same time, we need to be upholding our First Amendment rights.
Asmaret?
Yeah, I agree. I think the First Amendment is a real significant piece of what our whole country is based on in our society, and especially having access to these kind of internet sites and just the internet in general. This is something that we should use to better our country and regulate it in terms of whether it causes harm to other people or does anything negative or has a negative impact on anybody. So I think that controlling it, I'm not in agreement with that. I don't think that the government shouldn't take that kind of responsibility unless it's some kind of serious like harm that's going to be done to us. And yeah, definitely. But and just going into people's personal rights and things like that, they should be able to make the decision on their own whether they want to put something on Facebook or Twitter and Google site search engines, all that.
Zach?
I'm under the impression we still don't know what the internet is completely. I think we all go, oh, it's a foregone conclusion that this is what the internet will be. The internet right now doesn't resemble the internet 5 years ago. And I assume in 2 it won't resemble it. I'm one of the people that believes that Twitter will outlast Facebook. I think Facebook will start to implode on itself relatively soon. I know one of the problems with this, with the controlling, is that Google is complaining that they can't get all the content they want anymore. It used to be, if it's online, Google can find it. But with Facebook and protecting and all of that, they can't exactly get it. And I know they have a problem with Apple, where you can't search through the apps for information. So that means certain information is off limits to Google, which would mean that the internet's kind of losing its importance, which is a free flow of information. And I just think the internet's going to keep changing, and if the government thinks they can contain it, I don't even think the Chinese and Japanese governments will be able to contain it. They will for now, but it's just like when you shut down Pirate Bay, tons more websites. I know certain website, .com, they rose up instantly. I know their popularity skyrocketed when Pirate Bay shut down.
Yep.
It happens. I mean, the internet moves so much quicker than the legal system, and that's because it's not bureaucratic. It moves in nodes, and this is one of the reasons it was created. It was created so that if one part of it fails, the other part of it still exists. And I think the fact that you think you can control that is kind of ridiculous.
Thank you. Topic number 4, when we come back.
This sector's clear, Captain.
It seems that way. But they're here.
We have an intruder.
I thought you guys were cleaning out here.
Oh, we are. We're, sweeping.
Yeah, for space aliens.
Yeah, for space aliens.
Well, good luck with that.
Imagine what a little time can do for your family.
Travel advisories to small business loans. Product recalls to home buying tips. Government car auctions to finding a new job. Whether you have information to get or ideas to give, go to the official source, USA.gov.
This is not a race. On the road to financial independence, the winners are the ones who stay the course. Learn more about securing your financial future and choose to save. It will pay off in the long run.
Welcome back to the Scramble. The economy will be one of the biggest focal points during this year's election. A recent study has revealed that the average current two-income family is making less than a single-income family over 40 years ago. That lends favor to the idea that the middle class of the United States is suffering and truly starting to split. Jessica, how do you believe the declines of standards of living in the United States will affect not only you, but other college students as well?
Well, you know, I'm having a hard time with this question because as far as I'm concerned, what falling standards? You know, my life certainly is no different than it was several years ago. You know, you can run the numbers and say that we're struggling, and yes, there are cases where families are struggling, and that's very sad, but for the most part, I am not seeing that much of a change. And honestly, you know, while jobs are declining, while it's getting a little bit tougher to find jobs nowadays, I'm not concerned because, you know, there always is a demand for the up-and-comers. I just don't see, you know, if we're comparing our standard of living with that of other countries, there is no comparison. So, you know, I'm having a hard time seeing the decline in standard of living in America.
Robert, are you seeing the decline?
Oh, yeah. No, it's huge. It's very big. The problem is that, you know, 40 years ago, you get out of high school, you could get a job, you could get a really good job making $15, $16, $17 an hour. All of those types of jobs are gone. You know, you don't see those anymore. You have to have a college degree. So with that comes the cost of getting a college degree. You know, not everybody can afford to pay the, you know, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a year, whatever it costs to get to go to a four-year institution. I've noticed that my particular community college that I went to when I first started there in 2002, it was $12 a unit. By the time I left there, it was $25 a unit. Now it's $100 a unit at a community college. You know, so it's keeping poor people. It's keeping poor people, less people with less chances, less abilities of bettering themselves. And the more people fall into that trap, you just have this vicious cycle that continues to go over and over again. So, I mean, for people who are in college, they probably won't see it because you're getting the degree that's necessary for you to better yourself. But for the majority of people coming out of high school, you know what I mean, unless you get into college, I mean, it's hard for you. It's going to be a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice for you to be able to get out of that poverty, that standard of living. So, I mean, to think that there's not a problem in this country when it comes to standard of living is asinine.
Zach?
I fully agree with Robert. There is a problem, and one of those problems is a disappearing middle class. I know that when I grew up, I was middle class, upper middle class kind of thing, and since the whole economy shakeup, we've been steadily descending downward. And I think this is a problem that is in the country right now. And one of the big problems is when the middle class starts disappearing, there starts being a giant gap between the upper class and the lower class. And the fact that the lower class is growing, which it currently is, which is where the whole 1% thing comes in. And I think we do need to figure out what is going on and needs to stop this, because this is how revolutions begin. I'm not saying the United States is going to revolt against itself in the next few years, but currently this is the formula. This is how empires fall. You take money away from education, and your middle class starts splitting, your middle class starts dissolving. When those two things start happening, a country really needs to be worried, because that is a giant red flag. And I think part of it is, I'm preaching education completely. I think the fact that I pay out-of-state tuition and it costs an exuberant amount of money hinders a lot of people from doing it. I know people that went for 1 year and have dropped out because they couldn't afford it. That's ridiculous. We're supposed to be one of the most respected, well-educated countries in the world, and yet I have to take out loans that could cripple my career in the future just to possibly have that career in the future, so I'm not working at a gas station my whole life.
Asmaret, got about 40 seconds left. Why don't you sum up the topic for us?
All right. Well, basically, this is a serious issue. I mean, education is imperative to students, and especially if you're going to try to come out into what's going on in our society now, in our country now, economic downturns, people not being able to get the same tax return as they were simply 1 year ago. These are serious problems, and coming out of college, we're not being offered the same job opportunities and positions that, our parents were back in the 70s or whatever the case may be. And this really needs to change. That's a problem.
It's going to be a big deal.
Exactly.
Raise up Jessica on band on that one. When we come back, the final topic number 5. Stay with us right here on The Scramble.
Just like the Air Force Thunderbird pilot I flew with, I have to make split-second decisions as a top fuel driver. Hi, I'm Brandon Bernstein, driver for Kenny Bernstein's 2010 Copart Lucas Oil Top Fuel Dragster. To make it in the NHRA, I've had to work hard, stay focused, and make smart decisions along the way. To reach your goals, you need to think straight, stay on track, and give your very best effort in everything you do. Make the right choices today and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Is that thing getting closer? Look how high that thing's going. Look out there, look at the debris.
Give me the camera.
No, just drive, I've got it.
Zoom in, zoom in.
I can't believe this is happening.
Oh, the size of that thing.
It's everywhere.
Are you getting this?
Yeah, I've got it. What was that?
It's the National Guard.
How'd they get here so fast?
I don't know.
Pull over. Pull over.
Do you have what it takes to head into the heart of the storm? Check out NationalGuard.com.
Welcome back to The Scramble. Time now for our final topic of the day. President Obama took a backseat to other attendees at the recent Americas Summit. As Latin American economies continue to grow, U.S. policies may fall by the wayside. The United States is getting more and more resistance from the Latin American countries about trade policies and their relationships with other countries, most predominantly China. Cuba continues to be excluded from these meetings. Given all this, what kind of power changes are we likely to see in the future? Asmaret, that question is posed to you.
Well, Cuba has been an issue for the past 60 years, 50 years, and this was inevitable to me. I mean, America has continued to try to promote the exile of Cuba and the support of Latin Americans, trying to obtain and uphold that. And it's kind of reached a point where Latin America has realized that they need to kind of unite. And of course, why not against the giant America? I mean, America has been the force on the Western Hemisphere for years to come, and I think Latin America is being tired of being recognized as America's backyard, and now they're trying to take it upon themselves to come to the forefront and essentially bash America and trying to see what can you do for us now. China's over here offering us, all this aid and, economic support for businesses within our country. What are you doing for us? And this is really gonna, levitate some high grounds for China and hopefully not hurt America if we don't try to control this and really try to prove to Latin America that, we are here for them. This is the support that we need, but we have reasons for the Cuba exile and things of that such. And if Cuba is willing to reform and their democratic policies, then, we will consider bringing them back into the Latin America summits.
Perfect. Zach?
I think the biggest part about the summit was that Barack Obama sat there and listened to the countries. This is famously one of those summits where the United States president comes down and goes, this, and this, and they go, oh, well, and he goes, no, we got this. And I think for the first time, the Latin American country, this isn't the first time, this has been going on for years, and we say there's a small struggle between the two of them. We'll work it out. This isn't Europe where there tends to be some bad blood, or the Middle East where there is bad blood. we just kind of need to respect the Latin American countries a bit more. And I think they're realizing that. And Barack Obama's a great president for this reason, because he's someone that is willing to listen and to take all of that in. But I think something the United States needs to get used to is there's a superpower brewing in South America. Brazil is on the rise. They have one of the biggest lumber exports in the world, and they just found one of the biggest oil deposits in the world just off their shores. And they're hosting the World Cup, which, although you may think, oh, that's frivolous, in fact, it helps infrastructures in a lot. I mean, they're upping their security, they're fixing everything for that. And I think we just all need to start realizing that South America is coming into its own, and it's getting its first superpower, which is always something new to digest.
Robert?
Well, not just the World Cup, but 2 years later they had the Olympics as well, the summer games. So I mean, that's a lot for them to take care of, and I believe that Brazil will be perfectly fine in having both of those. As it pertains to the America Summit and them becoming an economically viable superpower, I mean, they've been sending people from their country into this country to learn about economic policies and how these various things should work. So to me, it's no surprise that they went back and they started building their own infrastructure and getting better. I mean, this is going back to the 60s. There's no surprise to me to think that they've been getting better at this, and that they finally got to the point where it's like, okay, we don't really need you. We can do this on our own.
It's a team effort, though.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a team effort. That's the whole point of them, sending guys to America and then, them going back and setting things up. So the U.S. needs to realize that they're not, the lone superpower, and it's not just, Europe, and it's not just China. That other powers can, rise up and be economic superpowers, and that they can better lives for their people in the country. I mean, I just don't see why we as Americans should be worried about something like this. I don't think we should. So there's another country where the standard of living is high. What's not to like about that?
Jessica, we've got to sneak in about 10 seconds to go. Last words on the topic.
The U.S. needs to butt out. This is what we've been preparing these countries for. We've been preparing them for independence. We need to let them kind of go their own way with this.
Thank you. For Asmir Geber-Tekle, Zach Swartz, Robert Sell III, Jessica Luhan, I'm Austin Eddy. We'll see you next time on The Scramble.